This gentleman has some really good advice that I want to pass along for the men. And ladies, let me know if you like this too. When it comes to women, I go by the tough yet tender mantra. Tough yet tender. By the way, this comment was on my video where I said I'm so happy that I got divorced. And this is a young man in his early 30s. He started out telling me that I just want to give you a little background, and his wisdom is making a whole video about his post, his comment. But he says that he left his toxic family at the age of 20, and his life is so much better without them in it. And I have found myself that people who have been in toxic families are usually good readers of people. And once they have left them, their life has really, they have really, like, they're very powerful people, actually. Now, here's the good part. When I was in my early 20s, I worked in a grocery store where you can learn a lot about people's relationships just by observation. The amount of middle-aged couples, mostly women, I saw that were clearly unhappy with their home life was pretty shocking to me. A few even asked me to come home with them, but I declined. It's not like I flirted with them or anything like that. I suspect their husbands were no longer paying attention to them. Yes. You could just sense how unloved and lonely they felt. Mind you, this was in a pretty affluent town. So probably these men are working a lot of hours. Their emphasis is on their work, and they neglected their wives. But hey, they'll tell you, I'm married 20 years. I'm married 30 years. And they have that stability of their wife who will never leave them. But she's miserable. If you want to know your success as a man, you want to look at the joy in your wife's eyes. You want to look at her eyes. You want to see how happy your wife is. Not because you're responsible for her happiness, but if she's miserable and unhappy because you've neglected her, that reflects poorly on you as a man. And a lot of men make this mistake. They start ignoring their wives. Sure, they can say they have a wife, they have children, they have the family business or the big house or the vacation homes or whatever, but they're miserable. Just because they're neglecting each other, it doesn't have to be that way. Let's continue on. And by the way, I see these unhappy women at the grocery store myself. He goes on. It begs the question, if your children are old enough to be out on their own, why a couple would still stick together when they're clearly miserable? Sacrificing for young kids is one thing, but once their reliance in you fades, does that not mean you should just wallow with someone that doesn't appreciate you? Does that mean that you should just wallow with someone who doesn't appreciate you? Once your kids are gone, does that mean you should just wallow with someone who doesn't appreciate you? I so feel this. Of course, people should do everything they can to stay together. Yes, the divorce rate is high enough, but part of respecting yourself is sometimes breaking free. You have to ask yourself, do I really want to be buried with this person? So I asked him, I asked him because I was curious. I imagine him to be a very sensual young man, attractive and sensual. Because women, we can read tenderness in men's faces, and the men I'm attracted to are masculine and strong, and I can tell they're confident, but they're also sensual. I can read that in their face. So I asked him, how old that maybe they have sensed his warmth, or maybe he was very attractive. And he said he was in his early 20s. He says he said, I'm fairly good looking and I'm also loving and affectionate. Yeah. See, that's what women, we can sense that in your faces. We see that. That's what we look for. But something they saw firsthand. But if I've learned anything about women after 33 years, it's a woman's intuition is not something to be trifled with, especially with older women. Guys get confused over the nice guy finish last thing. Nice is what you tell little boys. For men, you just have to be good. Good men will attract women. Yes, absolutely. Then he goes on. When it comes to women, I go by the tough yet tender mantra. Yes. Now he tells about the tender part first. Be loving, attentive, consistent, honest, protective, and caring. But don't be a pushover. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. If I could meet a man like that, who keeps his word and who is into me, I would be putty in his hands. This is why I'm making this video. These are the qualities that men need. Don't focus so much on your height or your six-pack abs, guys. Focus on this. Again, if you pour all this into one woman that you're pursuing, be loving, attentive, consistent, honest, protective, and caring. But don't be a pushover. That's it. That's all you need to know. And I'm going to add, to be attractive to women, you've got to be financially self-sufficient, have something going on, be attractive to her, and keep your word. That's really all you need, guys. That's all you need. Don't watch porn. I mean, it's just basic things. Now he goes on about the pushover, and that's what I want to talk about next too. Women don't respect pushovers as it indicates a lack of masculinity and self-respect. Yes, and I think that's what often people also call being a nice guy. But being a nice guy is similar to being a pushover. A pushover is someone who just has no backbone. He's trying to be nice. He's trying to get your approval by doing what you want, even though he doesn't want that at all. So it's inauthentic, it's manipulative, it's lying, and it's a lack of boundaries. It's saying, I have no boundaries, I have no self-esteem, I'm a nobody without you, so I need to please you to have a sense of self. And that is the opposite of what a woman wants. In a man, we want someone who's confident and who's strong. So imagine a man, to me, I look for a man who feels to me like he's reliable. I can count on him. Like I can count on him. He's like a tree, trunk tree. I can count on you. I can lean on you. I can ask for support from you. But a pushover or nice guy feels not like a tree, but like a limp wash rag. Like, ugh, let's get that thing away from me. And if I have to be responsible for your self-esteem and your confidence, I can't be in my feminine energy. Now I'm responsible for you. See, the pushover and the nice guy is actually burdening the woman with his self-esteem, his confidence, his need for love. Because instead of basking in my joy around you, I'm now responsible for you. Because you don't know what you want. I got to tell you what you want. And it's very repulsive. It doesn't allow for any femininity to flourish or a woman's joy to flourish. And a woman around a nice guy or people pleaser will either be turned off, like I get so turned off I can't even be around them for 1 minute. Or she will get angry with him and not want it in her marriage. She will start getting very angry with him, and he'll be like, I don't know why she's so angry. I do whatever she wants. Because you got no fucking backbone. You're a manipulator. That's why she's angry with you, because you're a manipulator. If you're a people pleaser, pushover, you're actually not nice. You are a manipulator. You are pretending. you have no you're like a vacuum, empty person who needs to be constantly filled up. So it's very depleting and very unattractive. So I went into that a lot because to me it's so utterly repulsive that I would rather eat a snail than go on one date with a pushover guy. I get that repulsed by them. So you have to be willing to have a woman be mad at you or say, I don't want to be with you. So, okay, anyone who is a people pleaser, and that goes same for women who are codependent, the whole key is the reason people do it is they're terrified of abandonment. They're terrified, if I tell you what I want, if I tell you what I need, if I tell you who I am, if I take up space, you will leave me. So you got to work on that part. You got to get to the point where you're so invested in yourself and loving yourself that it's okay for someone to say, I don't want to date you, or I'm mad at you right now. And it doesn't mean that they're going to leave you. You have to be willing to have somebody be upset with you. That's what boundaries do. When I give someone a boundary, I have to be willing that they're going to say no, or that they don't want to be my friend. And when I make a request, I have to be willing for people to tell me no. So people who are very high in feeling abandoned are going to have trouble with this. So that's why securely attached man is really good. That's why it's really good to work on yourself so that you're securely attached, so that you're like, okay, I got this. I really want this person to like me, but I don't want to do this. I'm going to say no. I can handle this. You got to start practicing that skill. Okay, I really went off on the pushovers. To me, it's just like, I just can't stand them. That's why I don't have guys who orbiters or guys who do me favors and stuff. Like, I can't be around people pleasers at all. And they suck in bed. They're always like, do you like this? Do you like that? I'm sorry I'm taking so long. I'm sorry about this. They're always apologizing for existing. It's not your fault. Okay, let me calm down. Okay, that was me speaking as a woman. Now speaking to me human to human, I have some compassion. It's not your fault because you were probably really abandoned and punished as a child just for existing. And you had to learn to people please so that you even got fed or got loved by your parents. So it was how your brain got wired. So now just unwire it. You can easily unwire it. Believe me, you might want to go work with a therapist. But that was a survival strategy that doesn't work for adults. It was very clever for you as a child to be a pushover, to be a nice guy, to be a people pleaser, especially if you have critical parents, demanding parents. Okay, I'm going to pause this video while there's a lot of noise outside, and then we will continue. All right, now he speaks about consistency. Consistency is often overlooked, but it's vital. It's one of the things that women may not think of initially, but once they get a hold of a man that is consistent, they won't let him go. For example, something as little as where you tell her that you love her every night. I would add that I would say that it creates a feeling of security in a woman. That, you come home every night, or even, you polish your shoes every Sunday morning, or you read the newspaper every Sunday morning. I don't know if that's what he means with consistency, but I was married to someone who was consistent, that I could rely on, and who kept his word. I'm going to add keeping your word as very important as helping a woman feel secure. By the way, my ex-husband was not a pushover, and that was one of the things that kept me so attracted to him. Even though his lack of affection and tenderness to me, especially sexually, broke my heart. So there are a lot of different elements that are involved here. But consistency is really good, really important. And then he goes, there's no better feeling for a man to come home to a loving woman, but he has to put in the work and not just rest his laurels on a paycheck. Being a good provider means a heck of a lot more than finances. Yes, There is no better feeling for a man to come home to a loving woman. But I will tell you, you can be this loving woman, and I'm going to assume for the point of this video that this is a loving woman who cares about her relationship, and she's with this guy who has kind of just started ignoring her over the years. So she started making her own life. She started wondering if he even had a place in it. And maybe she even was so hurt by him and so neglected. Maybe she's a very sensual woman who really wants that connection. Maybe she's a very sexual woman who really wants that connection, and she wants it with him, and he keeps rejecting her, ignoring her, neglecting her emotionally, sexually, physically. And she's not a woman to go off having affairs, so she just is suffering silently in her marriage. And all he had to do was just be a little more affectionate, and he could have come home to this loving woman. Instead, he's probably coming home to a woman who's off with her friends, or already off in bed, or maybe having a glass of wine or two, or, it's a cold house. The house is cold. The woman makes the home. A good woman makes the home. It feels warm. It feels peaceful. It feels inviting. So when the children come home or the man comes home, it's a happy, peaceful, safe, fun place. It's our resting place. It's our home. And a man can do a lot to destroy that just by neglecting his woman, because she's not going to be in her full radiance when she's neglected. It's impossible. He continues. While neither men nor women are perfect, therefore no relationships are. To me, women were meant to be loved. Women were meant to be loved. I like that. Women were meant to be loved. I'm going to call this video Women Are Meant to Be Loved. I like that. And so we as women, we have to feel, a lot of us are very giving. Okay, this video is not for these young women that are like super aggressive and super alpha and saying, I don't need a man. This video is for women like me and women like you who are watching, who are affectionate and sweet and kind and want to be loving to a man. So what we also have to know is that we deserve to be loved. So that's a thing that was a little bit of a stumbling block for me, and maybe still a little bit is just really feeling I'm worthy to be loved. I'm worthy to be loved. And to only allow men in our lives that want to love us. And love isn't just saying a bunch of nice words. Love is all those things that this young man said in the comment. Being attentive, caring, reliable, consistent, tender, not a pushover. I would say keeping his word and being really into you. Being really into you. Being honest. We have to feel worthy of that. We have to feel worthy of that so that we can attract that. Because a good man enjoys loving a woman and seeing her delight. We're just delightful creatures to these men. So if there are any men that go around and they're all over the internet saying women want too much and women have too many standards, don't listen to that. There's a lot of talk out there that can sidetrack you if it, if you were brought up like my dad would always be irritated with my mom for taking too long. So I get easily sidetracked when I hear that message from other people saying women want too much, because it's a negative message I heard as a child, but it's not a true message. So we have to start using our intellect to discern between what's true and what's not true. So there are a lot of wounded women out there. There are a lot of wounded men out there. We don't have to entertain them. And I would suggest not even listening to them. If it sounds wounded, just turn it off. And, it's like, I deserve to be loved. And I want to love people. I want to love people. So I'm just going to let in people who want to love me. So I thought this was a really good comment, and I agree. I don't see why women, while I am for marriage, and I think marriage adds a lot of stability to our society, I also don't believe that people should live with someone who ignores them, neglects them, um, belittles them, rejects them, doesn't appreciate them, because that's traumatizing to your body. And that's bad for the universe. The universe wants us to be joyful. The universe does not want us to suffer. And your body doesn't want you to suffer. It just creates cortisol, and it's bad for your organs. Like, I just think a lot of people stay in these marriages because sometimes they feel they can't get, that life can't be any better, or they're afraid to leave. Like, making change is freaking hard. Sometimes people have to, I think the same, sometimes people don't know that life could be better. They've just lived this way for so long. Or they feel like they're a good person for staying in it. I don't know. I think I'm going to call this video, are you, women deserve to be loved? And are you loved in your relationship? Again, if you're unhappy in your relationship, I always tell people, go to therapy. Ask your spouse to go to therapy. I'm unhappy in this relationship. Do you miss how it used to be? I would love for things to be better. And if your spouse says no, get the hell out of there. Because a lot of them don't give a shit that you're unhappy. They don't care that you're unhappy. And you want to live with that person that doesn't care that you're unhappy? At the very least, go by yourself. Go by yourself. Figure things out for yourself. Figure out if you really want to stay, or if you want to leave, how you can get the strength to leave, or what you want in a relationship to get some self-esteem back, to get some self-love back. Because being in a relationship with someone who invalidates you, doesn't care what you want, can really ruin your self-esteem to the point where you're asking out 20-year-old men who work at the grocery store to come home with you. I mean, they're so desperate for love and affection. I will say that after my divorce, I spent 2 years hooking up with young men in their early 20s. And I'll tell you why. Exactly, like this man. Young men in their early 20s are very sensual. They're very passionate. They know how to be very loving to a woman in bed. In bed for sure. I don't know. I never dated any of them. They're very passionate. They're very sensual in a way that older men are not. Okay? And I will tell you, because I've been with many of all ages. Younger men are the most sensual in bed in their 20s. Very tender. They have nice cocks that really work. They have nice bodies, and they're sensual. And that's the thing that a lot of women craved. And that's what I was craving, because my husband was not tender with me in bed. He shut off all of his emotions in bed. Outside the bedroom, he was very affectionate with me, hugging me, hugging me, holding my hand. He wanted to spend time with me. He would even give me foot rubs at night before we went to sleep. We had dinner together. He liked my company, and he was affectionate, but in bed, nothing. Now, for some women, they're not even getting what I got. They have a husband who cheats or doesn't spend any time with them. But I was starved for sensuality and tenderness, physical sensuality, physical tenderness, and sex. I was starved. And all those years I let myself be starved, it took me years to recover from. It took me years to recover because I let myself be so depleted. That's what I want to tell you. You're just harming yourself. It took me years to recover from that. And I'm only just now figuring out why I went on this fuck-capade and wrote the fuck list. It was because I was so depleted. I let myself be so depleted. And what I really wanted was sex that had some emotion in it. I wanted emotions in it. And these young men gave me a lot of emotions. That's what I needed. Unfortunately, then they blew me off, which was no lack of consistency or whatever. And then that broke my heart. So I traumatized myself even more. So there it is. So like, don't do what I did. When the guy starts ignoring you, get to therapy or leave him. And don't sleep around with guys who are not committed to you, because that can break your heart too. Being with a man who neglects you breaks your heart, whether he's your husband or a fuckboy. Don't let men break your heart. That's what I'm going to call this video. Don't let men break your heart. The moment your marriage starts falling apart, or your relationship, and it will, things come up, work, children, it's always good the first 2 years, and then you start neglecting each other, taking each other for granted. You can't do that. You can have a vibrant, happy marriage for life if you keep paying attention to each other and don't neglect your woman. But ladies, if you're with a man who's neglecting you, that's trauma. And to minimize trauma to ourselves, I think we have to get out of situations where we're not loved and we're neglected. Whether it's our husband, don't stay with a husband who neglects you. Don't go around having sex with guys who are not your boyfriend. We deserve to be loved. It's not loving to be married to someone who doesn't care about us. It's not loving to be married to a man who doesn't care how we feel, who doesn't care that we're upset at how he treats us or neglects us, who doesn't give us attention, who doesn't make love to us sensually, and who is inconsistent. It's not loving. It's also not loving to go around fucking guys that we don't know or that we barely know, and who don't want to be in a relationship with us, and who are not looking for a relationship. It's not loving to ourselves. So we deserve to be loved. We as women deserve to be loved. And ideally, we're going to look for men who want to love us. And only those men are men that we should date or fuck. And that also means that we don't use men. We don't take advantage of men, because we're loving people. We don't use men for who just trying to get our attention or trying to get our validation, trying to hoping they can get a date. Like, don't lead men on. Be nice, be loving. Don't lead men on. Don't gossip about men. Treat your man with respect and with kindness. Heal your relationship around men so that you can be loving and kind towards men. And that way you can attract loving men. Love yourself, know your boundaries, because if you don't, and you let guys get away with stuff, then you're being a pushover too. Be willing to let people go. Be willing to say no. Always be willing to say no. I'm so glad I got divorced. I'm so much happier now. So much happier now. You know what? I think he is too. I think he is too, because he could never live up to my standards of authenticity and sensuality. And being with a woman who asks more of you than you want to give or can give, it's not that great. Because you always feel like, I'm not measuring up right here. If your man is ignoring you, he's not in love with you anymore. Let him go. Let him find somebody else. Anyway, I'm a big believer in therapy. I think therapy is a good first step. But again, that all comes out of an act of self-love. And so many women were taught that being loving means not caring what you want. You being the pushover. A lot of people were taught that's the way to be loving. Have no needs. Have no needs. Don't complain. Have no feelings. And it isn't loving at all. It's abandoning yourself. And while you can be abandoned as a child, the only people who can abandon you as an adult is yourself. People can leave you, but they can't abandon you. Only you can abandon you. By not caring about your feelings, by not speaking up, by not having needs. And it's okay to say, I'm a needy, needy being. I will only be with people who want to love me. And thank you for watching my video.